Hello, everyone. Welcome to Opinions New by Dr. Frank Tianche and Frank. Okay. In this episode, I want to talk about something special or supernormal. I want to talk about the supernormal abilities that I have witnessed and experienced. Okay. You might have heard about something like deja vu or clairvoyance and other things. And I found that actually quite interesting. That I have found something similar in both Eastern and Western societies. Being a Chinese American, I have seen situations or examples in both countries. First, let's talk about what's deja vu. Deja vu is a French term, which means basically something we have already seen, right? Deja vu, some people may say, you go to a new place, the place for sure in this lifetime you had never been here before, right? You go to a hotel or in a situation where you suddenly realize, gee, I have been here before. I have experienced this before. I have seen this before, but I know for sure in this lifetime I have never in English. Okay? So deja vu or clairvoyance is another form of supernormal abilities. Another form of supernormal abilities. In cultivation, in cultivator circle, in cultivational communities in the East, there are many supernormal abilities that have been recognized. For example, movement, moving things, with supernormal abilities without even touching it. Okay. Clairvoyance is one of them. Clairvoyance is another term from French. We learn a lot from the French people. Okay? Our eyes or normally throughout naked eyes or other ways. Okay? There's another term that's associated with this called extrasensory perception. Extrasensory perception, or ESP. Okay? That is, someone is claimed is to have ability to see or to sense or to experience something beyond its sensory organs, the five senses that we human beings have. Okay, and the existence of clairvoyance and celestial eye. Of course, there are many claims like that, and it's not recognized by the scientific community, not yet at this time. Okay. And there's a subject called parapsychology that explores these possibilities, but the existence of paranormal is not supported by the scientific community. And I can see that. I was trained as a scientist too. I had been a scientist before. Okay? Now I'm a social scientist. I'm a business educator now. Okay? And also parapsychologists disagree, But there are things, that I'm going to explain to you in just a minute, and that the modern science cannot fully explain. Right? Let's hold this scientific approach in mind. Like keep this in mind. Does not explain or cannot explain with our current theories in science. Let's just keep it for now. Let's keep an open mind and explore further. Maybe one day, as our science develops, even more, we one day will see that what these phenomena in supernormal abilities may turn out to be true. Okay, so today I'm going to give you my account of some of the abilities that I have personally witnessed and experienced. Okay. The first one is in around 1985 and 1986. Okay, I came to the United States to pursue a degree in chemistry in 1986, August 16th to be exact. I remember the date. Came to America, went to Purdue University to study chemistry, analytical chemistry. Okay. But before I came here, I was a graduate student for master's degree in cosmochemistry and geochemistry at Peking University, Beijing University, or Peking University, as normally known. Or for those people who have been to China or to Beijing or been to Peking University is also known as Beida, or Beijing University. So at that time in 1985, between 85 and 86, I was a grad student, and my advisor, master's thesis advisor, is Professor me. Okay? And at that time, Qigong was very, very popular in China. They were all together about, Qigong was very, very popular in China. There were altogether about 2,000 different kinds of Qigong practices. You heard about Qigong, the term Qigong. Qi spells Qi, Gong, Gong. Okay. You may also have heard about Falun Dafa or Falun Gong, right? Which is also a kind of Qigong. Okay. But back then in the mid-1980s, there were 2,000 different kinds of Qigong practices that were being taught and spread it in Chinese society. Okay? So many masters, Qigong masters with supernormal abilities appeared in the society. Many scientists, researchers from Chinese universities, Academy of Science in China, and also there's a commission called the Defense Science and Technology Commission of China. This basically is a PLA arm on scientific research for military purposes, right? Because those researchers probably believe that, by studying those supernormal period in the military technology development, okay, that's a different story. But my advisor in China, in Beijing, and I were involved with some research on supernormal abilities by those Qigong masters, and we attended many research seminars, research experiments, and internal meetings and conferences, everything. Okay? I still remember one day in 1985, and then we watched together a documentary. Internal documentaries, kind of classified in China at that time. It could still be classified, but I'm sure in the archive of Chinese Academy of Science of China, they may still have that videotape or a movie somewhere in the storage. Okay? That documentary that we watched back then, is about one Qigong master. His name is Zhang Baosheng, Mr. Zhang. Okay, I was there. Right? We went there. Let me just give you some background information here. Right. At the time, as I said, in the mid 1980s, there were so many Qigong masters. There were also many supernormal abilities or supernatural phenomena, appearing in society. This one is particular about recognizing Chinese characters through ears. Okay, that's the sign that they knew. But for those they did not know, they hadn't learned too many Chinese characters yet, right? So, but they were able to actually just almost draw a picture of the characters on a piece of paper, and then the scientists, experimenters, would take down the little piece of paper, wrap the piece of paper, open it up to see that the experimenter or the supernormal ability, the person with supernormal ability, could actually replicate, or recognize correctly a lot of the words, characters written secretly, on the piece of paper. Of course, there are many others did recognize that those abilities were real. At least some of them truly had this ability that they cannot explain. They could not explain. Okay. Among the scientists involved in the project that my supervisor, my advisor, Professor Chang, was involved in, that I also participated, was one that involved scientists from the Naval General Hospital of China, from Academy of Science High Energy Research Center, right? And from, of course, Peking University. Okay? And they were involved in that. Okay? So this particular experiment or documentary that I watched, right, it was the videotaped. Okay? It was videotaped using high-speed camera. This is in 1980s, right? There was no video camera, digital video camera as we know today. Of course, there was no iPhones or iPad that you can use to using that to shoot a movie. So it's actually a high-speed movie cinema camera making that. Okay, in front of the desk, surrounding him in the room. The room was closely cleared, sealed, with no interference, right? And no polluters. Make sure there's no polluters. And the people were watching him from all the angles to make sure he's not cheating. Right? And so they were conducting a true scientific experiment. This is how the experiment goes. Okay? First, this is the researchers, found a little bottle about this big. Right? That's what the people in China used to get, from farmers. Okay? It's made of brown glass and with the plastic cap. It's a black plastic cap, right? And it's sealed, of course, normally. Okay? The scientists, the researchers, took a bunch of pills, from the medicine bottle. It's a bottle of medicine, medicine pills. Right? They took out the pills, they numbered them, handwritten numbers on those pills, a dozen or so, and they sealed the cap of the bottle, glass bottle, with kind of like a seal, like just like hot sealed. I think it's a reddish hot seal, right? They seal that, and while it's just before it's solid, and if the cap is ever broken or ever moved, the seal will break, and then the researchers will tell. Okay, so the researchers gave the little bottle sealed with the pills, number the pills inside, a dozen or so number pills inside, and give to this Qigong master, Mr. Zhang. Okay? He just sit in front of a table, just like that, and just put an example like this, just holding bottle like in his hand, and you can see that this bottle in his hand, he just were dropping from the bottle through his hand onto the table in front of him. Okay, so this keeps going on, and he keeps shaking it, and until the end, all the pills from the bottle fell to the ground, top of the table. Okay, and then that would remember I said this is from high-speed cinematography, right? With a bottle inside his hand, right? And you can still see pills dropping off. Okay, and there's a one still. This is 35 years ago. Okay, that I saw in an experiment in Beijing, China. Okay? I still remember vividly this whole picture, where the hand, it was a still picture. The hand is a standstill. We can see his hand, his bottle, and we saw we saw this one pill coming from the wall of this bottle, half inside, half outside. You can imagine how bottle, and he put the bottle, laid bottle down on the table, and then scientists, researchers, all came over to examine all the pills, a dozen or so pills with numbers on it, all on the table. Okay. So we couldn't explain that. It's just, but we knew then this is something, in China, from Beijing, from the Academy of Science of China, from Peking University, right? Nobody could explain that, right? So, and then we asked they asked this Qigong master, how did you do it? How did you do it? How did you make it? How did it happen? He didn't really know either, right? He just knew that while he was doing that, he thought about it. And then it just happened. It just happened, and he did not know exactly what happened. Okay. Then I actually and then I saw some truly good of this phenomenon. That there is actually a supernormal ability of moving things, in through another space, another dimension. Okay. As to the EIP of recognizing words or characters on a piece of paper, wrapped, right, it's very actually quite common. My advisor, Professor Chang, faculty of picking, Chang under their arms and ask the kids, do you see anything? And many, about half of them, 50% actually had this ability emerged. They call it emerged or developed. But then you cannot explain it. Nobody could explain it. Why could that be? How could that be the case? Later on, when they came to the United States and did more research, more study, and found this was called in the English world or in America, it's called ESP, extrasensory perception. It's the same thing as what the Qigong master, his ability to move things. I was shocked. I was also thinking, we were discussing, debating, and researching on this. One way, or to explain this phenomenon, is through multidimensional space. You have x-axis, y-axis, and the z-axis, right? You use three axes, three axos, and you can define every space and every location or spot in our three-dimensional space. So in other words, as human beings, we live in a three-dimensional space, right? And let's imagine a life form, a being, living in a two-dimensional field, two-dimensional world. What would that be like? It's like on a plane, right? On the plane, with X and Y, two dimensions. Okay? Imagine a life living in a two-dimensional world. They only can see left, right, front, back, but no up and down, because they can only see two dimensions. Okay? Imagine someone living in the two-dimensional world. Right? You put a line in front of the person, and then they see, and then you put an object. Let's say you put an object. Let's say this is a medicine pill in front of the person, this being, right? This person, or this being, this life that's behind it, right? And then the person, as a human being from three-dimensional world, we can easily move that pill, pick it up, put on the other side of the line, and drop it. So the line will separate the observer and the pill. To the observer, or the being in the two-dimensional world, he or she or it could no longer see the pill because it's blocked by a line. Okay, but think about that. To us, beings or living lives in the three-dimensional world, we cross the line. But to two-dimensional living beings or or entity, they see the thing suddenly disappear. We can move that pill back to this side of the line, and this being can see the pill again. You see what I'm saying, right? And they can almost see that pill suddenly disappeared from nowhere because they couldn't see the third dimension, right? So this is I just want to use this example as a way to illustrate the point here. Now imagine someone living in the fourth dimension field, fourth-dimensional world. Some people may say, what's the fourth dimension? That could be time. Okay? Let's say it's time, or it could be something else. Okay? Let's say someone living in the fourth dimensional four-dimensional world. And this person can easily move the things, like the pill in the bottle, out to the fourth dimension that we cannot see and put them back there. And then as that person put that back there, we can see the pill appearing again, but maybe move to another place or move to the outside the little bottle that Qigong Master Zhang was holding in his hand. Maybe this Qigong Master had this ability of moving things, pills, into a fourth dimension and bring them back. And if that ability truly exists, where he had access to the fourth dimension, he could easily play this trick. Okay? To us, it's something super normal. Okay? So what I'm saying is, this is one explanation given, to explain this supernormal or this unknown phenomenon, right? Now, if that's that's because I introduced the concept of the fourth dimension. What about the fifth dimension? Five-dimensional world. What about sixth dimension? Sixth-dimensional world, or even higher, 11th, 13th, or 17th dimension, in dimensions in this universe, if the Big Bang theory were to be true. So, okay, that's beyond my scope, but at least, that give us a hint, or maybe opens the door as to the existence of higher dimensions, higher than our three dimensions. And then if there is truly the higher dimensions, like in the fourth degree, fourth, fifth, or even higher, is there life? Could there be life in those dimensions? Who are they? Okay? Who is it? Okay? And could that be the immortals that are described in the ancient legends or in the biblical terms, in the scriptures, from ancient scriptures, religious books from all over the world? They were talking about gods, immortals, and deities in higher dimensions that we cannot see with a naked eye. Okay. All right. So that was that story. Okay. Let me give you another story. I actually had, when I was grad student there at the university, my advisor, I told you, Professor Chang, she actually is my advisor for master thesis, and she's also the kind of researcher in cosmochemistry and geochemistry. And since she was studying this supernormal ability associated with Qigong, she actually adopted, I would say exactly adopted, but she had, living in her house, a little girl. The girl's name was Zhong Qing. Last name is Zhong, first name is Qing. Okay, the girl's name is Qing. Okay, the girl, say between 6 and 9 years of age. Okay, I was 23, 24 years of age. I was a grad student. She was I would say, is probably a high school, middle school, or elementary school student. Okay. She was from Sichuan province. Sichuan province is in the western part of China. So she had this obvious supernormal ability, and somehow my advisor, Professor Chang, found about her, and brought her to her room, her house, to live with them, live with the family for a little while. And then, of course, professor wants to conduct some research on her, research her supernormal abilities. And she did have many supernormal abilities. Let me give you a few examples here. Back then in 1980s in China, there were popsicles. They were like say normally old ladies, like street vendors, right? They have it's kind of like our ice cream machine in America. Popsicles, brown sugar, cost about 3 cents, 3 Chinese cents, 3 pennies each. And the other type is one with the milk inside, I guess. It's white. It's a white milky popsicle costing about 5 cents. That's what I remember. I don't even still have them or not. One day I go back to China, I'll see. But then this little girl, Chongqing, as I said, she had some supernormal abilities. And one little trick that she could do is to she used one Chinese penny, 1 cent is a coin, and she could turn that into a 5 cent coin, okay, one dime, right? Basically, she could turn, using her abilities, turn that penny into a nickel. It's Chinese nickel, 5 cents coin. She would just put a penny inside her hand. What she saw was truly a 5 cents, coin, Chinese coin. And then she would sell this the popsicle, the 3 cent popsicle to her, to my friend Chongqing, and gave her 2 cents exchange. So basically, this little girl, they used 1 penny. Fascinated with that. I said, "How did you do it?" She said, "Yep, actually, she could do it with her hand, with her mind. She could think, just thought about that, asked things to change, it would change. Hard to believe, huh?" And then I asked her, what happened to the fake 5 cent coin that the old ladies took from her? What happened to that? She said, "Oh, don't worry. The money, the fake, let's say pseudo, the box is closed. Nobody see it. The 5 cents, penny, coin will turn back, change back to 1 cent penny, 1 cent coin." Imagine that, and it's true. Okay? And also, Chongqing, this little girl, has her celestial eye open. Celestial eye. I talk more with this person, that person, tell me the aura, or you can see the lights emitted by the person. She could indeed see the aura